Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. Before we turn the cameras on, of course, you know, we're chit-chatting and shit. It's cool to be able to, like, do this interview face-to-face. You know what I mean? I don't know how many years we've just... But we've seen each other in person before, though.
Yeah,
right?
I even went to...
Yeah, that's cool, that's cool, that's right. I will never forget that, because I don't think I've ever had, like, any fighter, like, have a layover in Korea. And then me actually meeting them. I've had fighters contact me like, yo, what to do, blah, blah, and but, you know, their time was very short, but
yeah, we had 12 hours in. Went through the market, ate all the different foods.
This was before you were a father.
Yeah.
Right?
That was, no, she wasn't even pregnant. Yeah, you're right, you were talking about that.
Yeah.
Crazy. Trip. One of the many trips to Thailand.
Yeah, well, you know, talking about trips to Thailand, you're back in Thailand.
Yep.
You're back in Bangtao. This is your second trip out here?
Third to Bangtao.
Third to Bangtao,
yeah.
Okay. But we were talking about how you have been out here for years. You've been coming back and forth for years.
Yeah.
And Chiang Mai, and you mentioned Songkran, which just got over with not too long ago, and you mentioned an accident that you got into. Tell me about that, man. You gotta tell people.
Pretty much started my pro career out here. Like I was like 1-0 back in Canada, and then I got sponsored to come live out in Chiang Mai during Team Quest Thailand days, and that was 2014. So I was there, had a couple fights, and one of my fights was in Hyon, and it was like April 13th or 12th, and it was the night before Songkran started. So like I won the fight, knockout, went out, and it was like the streets were crazy, you know, water fights everywhere. So I got to experience it down in Hyon, down south, for one night, and then we went up back to Chiang Mai the next day, and it was like a 3-4 day thing. So it was still crazy, and I'm like just fresh off of a fight, so we're going crazy, we're partying, and I was on my scooter and didn't have a helmet on, and I was going pretty fast down like a main road, and a car came swerving out of the way, and you know how we're on the other side of the road, so it took a wide right turn, you know, and it like kind of swerved into me, and there was kids in the back in a tailgate, and they were like throwing water at people like on the road, and I kind of like, me being a, you know, new to the scooter, and like I didn't lean, I like panicked and turned real quick, and with the speed I was going, I just lost complete control of my handlebars. Went head over, you know, head over the handlebars, landed head first on the concrete, landed on my back and slid. And like I don't really remember much after that. I was like, I kind of have glimpses of like, you know, people over top of me and like moving me on a stretcher, and like I just remember blood everywhere and not really remembering much. The next time I came to, I was in the hospital, and I had a Thai nurse was on me, and she's like, hands on her shoulder, and she's like, you have angels on your shoulder. You shouldn't have survived that. It was the first thing that they said to me when I woke up. I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? It was heavy. And that's kind of, bro, it was bad. Like I had road rash all up down my back, like degree burns, you know? I still got scars. And then I think it was like 20 stitches underneath, because the swelling was so bad, and then I had to go back to the hospital, and they stitched over top when the swelling went down. 10 stitches on my ear, 12 on my eyebrow, like through my eyebrow, and then my head was like split in like a V, and if you pulled it back, you could see my skull. Yeah, it was bad. And then being out here, shit takes forever to heal, bro. So it was like, I had to go back it was 3 weeks every second day for cleanings, and most people, like you go to the emergency and it's full of like foreigners with bandages from accidents, and I would roll in and they would see me and they'd like pull me over, and I would have like 4 or 5 Thai ladies, like some on my legs, some on my head, and I'd just be sitting there and they're undoing all my wounds, and it went like that for like 3 weeks, and then nothing like my head didn't close for like 6 weeks after. Right? It was bad. Like man, it was like the infections, and it was just a nightmare. But that was like one of the ones that just made me realize like not taking stuff for granted. You know, for sure. Anything can happen so quick, and you see it out here all the time. People, you know, injuries, and not even just road rash, but like, you know, blowing out knees, shoulders, whatever. So like it made me realize that like, bro, every day I don't have to train, I get to train. You know, and so just when you're injured, you notice it even more. And that was probably like the biggest career injury I've ever dealt with, and it was off the mats, and it translates to the mats too. On anything can happen, bro. So it's just like, that's why I want to fight when I'm healthy. I just want to get this going, you know. you never know when your last fight is. I know that's pretty deep, but it's real, you know. So, but yeah, that's how I started that was my second month in Thailand of that year stint. And so that's how I started living out here. So,
did they say like, you know, you could go back to fighting like after you heal, or did they say like maybe you should stop?
No, like, well, because luckily I had no broken bones. It was all like superficial stuff, like bad cuts everywhere, right? So I could still like move around. And I mean, the guys that sponsored me up in Chiang Mai, they were telling me to go home. They're like, well, you should go home and rest and whatever. But I was so pissed off and young, and I was like, no, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna heal up and stick to it. And I did. And I think that kind of spoke to them too, of like, damn, this kid really wants to be out here, you know. And yeah, so it took me about 6 weeks, and I ended up fighting, you know. That happened in April, and I fought in July. So like shortly after, I fought again right away. You know, I was in anger. They had a show coming up. I was like, put me on it, doesn't matter. And that's what it is.
No, your team was probably like, this dude's a maniac.
That's how they met me. You know, I destroyed myself on a scooter and fought like 2 months later.
Wow, dude, I didn't know that. I always thought that scar was from fighting.
This one, no, yeah, that's from face planting concrete.
Damn, dude, I didn't know that. That's crazy. But now you're back 10 years later.
10 years later, yeah.
10 years, literally. That's wild, right? Like you started out here, you're back 10 years later as a fucking Bellator contender. You just fought for the title. Let's talk about the title fight, man. Yeah. We talked about it off camera a little bit, you know, a couple days ago. And just take us through it, man, because you had success in the fight, and then, you know, you got caught.
Yeah, man, I mean, that one was hard because that was an opportunity I was waiting for 13 months, you know. And when I realized like things kept coming up, obviously I'm not gonna go down that. Like there was just opportunities for him, and so I ended up getting booked against Gallagher, you know. And that's I kind of knew that was the next step. I had to earn the title shot again, you know. And then it got thrown back in my lap. I think it was like 3 weeks, you know. So the circumstances around the fight that I had been waiting for weren't ideal, you know, which sucks. But you got to jump on an opportunity. You don't say no in this sport. And I felt good, you know. I was already in camp, so it's not like I had an excuse of not training or anything. Like it was just jumping from 3 rounds to 5. And it was an opponent I was well aware of, you know. So I felt good in there. Everything was going normally. I knew that first round was going to be like a throwaway. It was my first 5-round fight, and just watching Pitbull and how he fought 5 rounds, because he's one of the best 5-round fighters that I can think of. He's very slow in the first round, you know, and he gets his reads, and with 5 rounds you can kind of pace yourself. 3 rounds is different; it's more of a sprint. But so I planned on, you know, imitating that. You know, I was like, okay, well, we're gonna go out there and feel each other out that first round, and we did. I would give him that first round. He just had a little bit more activity. I was just getting my range, and then the second round I started picking it up, and I felt really good. You know, I won that round. I was winning the third. I dropped him, and that's when I tried to put him away. I remember thinking in the fight, I was like, I dropped him with the left hook, then we were up against the cage, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna finish this guy. Like, I remember thinking it in my head. And then that was my biggest mistake, because we broke off, I kept going, I was kind of going for the kill. And, you know, the one thing I was worried about with him the whole fight was that puncher's chance, that overhand right that he has. And he has that in his pocket, and man, he landed it. You know, it was one of those things that I was aware of it so much until I like flipped that switch of trying to put him away and got in a firefight with a guy who wants that kind of fight, you know. So I fought his style of fight, and that's all it took. And he's a capitalizer, man. Like I had him hurt, I didn't put him away. He got me hurt, and he was able to flurry, rally, and get the job done. So it's one of those ones where I mean, I call it arrogance, but I feel like I'm the better fighter. I feel like I would do things differently in a rematch, but that's not the sport, you know. That fight happened. The outcome was the outcome, and now I gotta dig myself back up to that opportunity again. So yeah, that's all I'm looking at now. Is I've took away what I needed to of that fight. I also gained so much, like confidence. Like that's the pound for pound GOAT, you know, and how I was feeling in there and how the fight was going just proves that. And it wasn't even a grappling thing. It was striking. So I was in his element, and I was doing well. And now I just want to build off that, honestly. I'm trying to get back in there ASAP and build off that momentum. Even if it was a loss, I still want to carry that momentum of how I was feeling, the presence, the calmness, the spotlight of that big of a fight. And that, honestly, that's it, man. I've turned the page on that fight, and now I'm just looking at September is what I've been told and what I'm gunning for anyway. So I don't care who it is. Now I'm just ready to get back in there, get a win, set myself back up for a #1 contender fight, and get back into that title by early next year.
Yeah. And you were talking about, you know, of like when you got hit.
Yeah.
Like you were cognizant of like everything that was going on, but your body wasn't working.
Yeah. So
take us through that.
That's another thing. I think it's a weird one. I've never felt that. He was punching me like in the neck, and I went back and watched it because I was like, bro, like, I've been hurt before, rocked before, and all that, and I didn't have that same sensation. Like I was cognizant. I was coherent of the whole thing. I could see the ref in my corner. I could see him flurrying me. I remember thinking like, shit, I gotta move, and just my body kind of shut off. And when I rewatched it, I did like a little bit of the stanky legs, and it was a shock. Like he kept his overhands, and I think it was him being so short and me being so tall that I'm extending on my punches, and when he's throwing up, all his punches were landing in my like neck area, temple area, you know. And the one that did the job was he hit, and as soon as he hit me, I got like a jolt down my legs, and that's the one that kind of did like the funkiness. And then I went to the back of the cage, and I was still up. Like I said, I could see everything, and it wasn't like a knockout to me, you know. And I couldn't move. Like I couldn't get my feet under me anymore. And so even when I like fell down and the ref jumped in, I was looking at him, and he was like trying to dig my mouth guard out. I was like, bro, I'm good. Like relax, like it's all good. Obviously not all good, but I'm not in that kind of state. And so that's just, again, that's not an excuse. That's a fight-ending sequence. You know, it is what it is. It was just something different that I hadn't experienced before, and it just shows that, bro, 30 fights, 35 fights, whatever it is, 12 years in professional, and I'm still learning. You know, every fight's something new. And yeah, like I don't even know what to do differently on that. That's just stylistically, body type wise, I'm a bigger guy. And I mean, I went out and I bought this after the fight. I bought this crazy neck device. And it's called the Next Level, and it's good, bro. And I'm gonna post some videos of it later. It's legit. It's like clinically for like physical therapies, and it's in their clinics. And I bought it for my house, and I hit it like 3 times a day, and just, I was like, what can I do differently? I was like, strengthen my neck. I was like, I want to get like a Mike Tyson neck, you know, 19 inches. You know, get that thing from the ears down to the shoulders. And that's about it, man. It's just little things, and that's just a funny part of the fight that happened. And man, like I said, I want that one back, but I know I got ways to go. I know he's got a lot of opportunity and options for him, and I know with his age, I don't know how much longer he's around. So that's what hurts. It's one of those ones that I don't know if I'll get it back. Like the Borix fight, that hurt, but he's a young guy. We're in the same division. We're in the same organizations. I know I'm going to see him again. Pitbull is one of the ones where it's like, damn, I got to act fast to be able to get him again. So that's why I want to get back to work, you know, as soon as possible, and rack these wins together and get back into that opportunity.
Well, you're back to work, man. I've seen you on the mats every day, a couple times a day. You know what I mean? Working with Frank Hickman. You know, taking the classes, jiu-jitsu. Like, it's not like you were deterred by that fight. It almost seemed like you gained confidence, and you learned, like, okay, I need to make certain adjustments, and you also give information for the next opponent for Pitbull. You give a lot of information. Yeah, it's great.
I mean, that one, like I said, I had like 4 days after the fight. I went to Amsterdam with my family. I literally just unplugged. I didn't touch my phone. It was like the biggest loss of my career, you know, the opportunity and everything. And I felt sorry for myself. I went through all the waves and the emotions, and as soon as I boarded the flight to come back home, I was like, all right, I licked my wounds, it's done. Now it's just moving forward. You're only as good as your last fight. I know that's a cliche, but it's so short memory, you know. As soon as I get a win, that's all I'm going to be thinking about. And that's what people, they always talk about your last fight, you know. So I really want to just wipe the clean slate and put that in the rear view and get a fight booked, bro. That's why I got back to work right away, because I want to be ready for anything. You know, now with the PFL and the Bellator being one umbrella, I don't necessarily have to wait for Bellator. I don't know what opportunities lay for me in the PFL side. So as long as my weight's good, I'm training, and I'm in shape. It's also just a lifestyle, bro. Like I can't not be training. So this is my vacation, and I'm doing 2 days, you know, training, dieting, grinding. But that's why I also love it out here so much. It's a place that I can travel and vacation with my family, but I'm also not losing a step. I'm still in it, right? and it's even the networking. It's Phuket as a, it's like a,
it's a hub.
It's the Vegas of Southeast Asia, bro.
It is.
Like Vegas is the West Coast, Florida's like the East Coast, and then Thailand's the Asian side, you know. So, I'm still here. That's surrounded by good fighters, good coaches, and I'm training, just ready for the next one.
Yeah, so when you look at the division, right?
Yeah.
And who's available and who might fight for the title next, and even if, you know, they might not even have a title fight by then, by September, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But for you, who are you looking at as options? Like, you know what I mean? You're coming off a title fight, which means that you do have a little bit of power, you know what I mean, of like who you can fight.
It's hard for me because, I mean, PFL, they kind of took the whole Bellator. If you look at the rankings, I don't even think Bellator's putting rankings out anymore, right?
Well, I'm gonna give some information out. I don't know if people know, but I was part of the Bellator rankings, and I haven't done any rankings this year.
They haven't hit you up for anything.
So I don't think they're doing it.
I think they're not doing it anymore. But if you did look at the last rankings, from like, it's me, Pico, and Pitbull were at the top there, and then from like 4 down is all in the tournament. I mean, Mads went to 55. Pedro's over there, Borix is over there, you know, Timur, all the guys that were on my next kind of on the horizon. No, they're all in the tournament fighting each other now. So when it comes to the 45s in Bellator right now, I think it's Pico who's arguably going to be fighting Pitbull next. And I think that's probably going to be, if they're smart, that's on that September 7th in San Diego. It's in California. They like having Pico in California. And I want to get on that card against any other featherweight that's available, you know, just so that I'm still in that picture with the title picture. And I mean, you got Gallagher, which is hard because I'm here, you know, but he's literally the only guy that I know of that's in here. And then there's that fight that's on this Paris card this weekend. He's that Jonas Villarina. He fought on the Contender Series. He's a late signee.
Oh, the one, the one that worked with, yeah.
And then he is fighting Yves Landu.
Okay.
Who's another experienced 45er.
I think Yves is out here training at a Fight Club.
Okay.
For that fight,
Yeah, so I knew, like, those are not very like strong names, but caliber-wise of opponents, they're guys I can see myself fighting. Maybe the winner of that. But then again, you got to think that the PFL division is 10 guys. And that turns to 4 after June. So there's going to be 6 guys looking for a home again. And I mean, before in the PFL, if you lost, you're waiting for next year. Now with the umbrella of PFL and Bellator, those fighters, you know, they could be fighting again by the end of the year in Bellator side. You know, so I mean, I'm looking at that PFL division on the lower end of the guys that I know aren't making it to the semis. I could easily see myself fighting them, you know, after the summer, and because Bellator doesn't really put on any more shows after they're doing May and June. They're taking a little hiatus until September, and I think that's when everyone's going to start fighting again. So I'm looking at September, October against any 45er that they can offer me. That puts me right back in there.
You just need to get back into competition, get a win on your side, and then
I'm right there.
See the future.
Hey,
like if they do put Pico against Pitbull, like you'd be pushing for Pico to win, right? I
mean, that's for me. It's hard because I want that Pitbull rematch, but that's for more fights away. You know, where if Pitbull wins, I think he's got that whole, you know, now what am I doing? Champ versus champ, going here, I don't know what he's gonna want to do, and I'll have more work to do for a rematch. Where if Pico wins, you know, and I get another win and I'm on a win streak, you know, we got to run that back. So I think that's my faster route to the title, of course, and I do think Pico has a really good shot of beating Pitbull, you know. So if that's the fight that gets put together, I don't care who wins, but I mean, I see advantages to both, but I definitely think I got a fast track to the title a little bit quicker with a Pico win. So
yeah, I think you showed a lot in the title fight, even though it was a loss, but you showed that, like, yo, I came really close to finishing the champ, man.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so close. Like, I love Pitbull as well, but it's just like, dude, what we saw is what we saw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You did phenomenal in that fight until, you know what I mean, you got caught. But the thing is, like, I'm pretty sure, like you said, it's limited, right? The division because of the PFL.
Yeah.
You could possibly slide into a title fight, a rematch. You never know with this sport, right?
And that's why, again, staying ready. all that stuff that happened in Saudi Arabia just opened my eyes of like, you know, when they had the Braga, Pineda was out, Braga was in, you know, then I ended up fighting Pitbull and I got the title shot. So now with these big fights and the cards that they want to build and they want to keep guys on cards, and they got, like, Corrales was jumping on a plane to go fight Pico in like 2 days notice, you know? So I'm looking to stay ready for anything that happens, you know, and even if that's a PFL slot, if something opens up, and I mean, I'm not saying I'm going and jumping into the tournament. I know they got alternates and all that for that, but they're doing pay-per-view events. I think they got another one in June. There's going to be a champ versus champ card, you know, near the end of the year. So, man, there's a lot more opportunity with this merger. So staying in shape, staying sharp, and staying ready to fight is my only goal right now until I hear otherwise.
The pay-per-view event, right? So they're gonna put fights on there, matchups, the best matchups, right? So for you, if you look at the 45ers in PFL and Bellator, aside from Pitbull and Aaron Pico, what would be the most exciting matchup to put on a pay-per-view card if you could make that matchup?
For me, now that they're all PFL guys, because I was gonna say they like to keep the Bellator versus PFL thing. I want that Borix rematch. Like, that's the one, because it's not like I'm picking a guy that most people are like, oh, you're just picking an easy route. You know, like, he's still
very good.
Very good, and he just won his last fight. He's still doing well in that tournament, and so that's the one I want. You know, that's got the most name value to me. That gets my redemption, and everybody wants to beat the guys that, you know, they lost to, and I know I'm a better fighter than that fight. And seeing him as his last fight against Barzola, I was like, man, that's a fight I really want. You know, so that would be great. But honestly, any of them, anyone with a PFL crest that I could fight on a PFL versus Bellator type thing, let's go, sign that up.
For real. And yeah, man, another guy that you're pretty close with and train a lot with is Patricio Mix. Is he the best bantamweight in the world?
I believe so. It's hard because, you know, O'Malley does his thing when the way he handled Aljo was like, oh, if he faces the grappler, he's done, you know, and he did really well there. I mean, Aljo's said it was an off night, and, you know, you gotta believe him for what it is. But Patchy's different, bro. He has his weapons of, you know how there's puncher's chance? He's got like a subber's chance. Always, at any given chance. If that dude gets a hold of your neck in a guillotine, or he gets on your back, there's a high chance he's gonna finish that. So in a 25-minute fight against a guy like, you know, on the other side in the UFC, like an O'Malley type dude, I for sure see there's huge opportunity for Patchy to win that at any given time. And on the Bellator side, I don't see much for him. I mean, he's got rematches now. He's looking at that. You know, he's got Magomed and then probably Stotts or whoever else, but these are all guys he's beat, you know? So I definitely think he's the best bantamweight. I mean, without going to the UFC, it's hard to really say that, you know, but as it stands in his body of work, how can you not put him in that conversation?
Oh, you definitely, dude, I put him at, you know, like when you look at like submission artists, like of all time, like the greatest ones at the highest level, Patricio Mix is next to like a Oliveira.
Oh, easy, 100%. Yeah.
Because everybody I talk to from Vegas that trains with Patricio Mix, they're saying dude's grappling is just like another. It's like you're wrestling in the cage. They're like, Jeremy's wrestling in the cage, next level. Like his submissions are next level.
Yeah, and it's not like his grappling in general is. It's very, very good, but it's his submissions, and he catches you, and those are kills, you know. So it's like you could be having success with him for 10 minutes, and then all it takes is 2 seconds of a guillotine, and it's a kill shot, and that's it, you know. So he's just super dangerous, and yeah, man, I think that's just that skill set alone puts him as a threat to beat anybody, on the planet at 135.
Yeah, you guys got a pretty solid like crew, like a group that you guys train with all the time.
Yeah.
Like you, Patchy, Kai, and a couple other guys. Mads as well is part of your team as well, right? And you guys are having a lot of success. That crew, man.
Yeah, I think it's just
fun. It's fun to watch.
All these guys the same weight, you know, and we're all at like that high level. You got Dan Ige as well. Aljamain's, Lance Palmer, like all these guys that are 40. Aljo that he's a 45 now too, you know. So we got Julian Arosa. Like it's just a solid group of 45ers, you know, and we all push each other. We're all competitive, and we all have different skill sets that we all can bring to each other, you know, and we just feed off of it. We're nobody thinks, you know, they're too good for whatever. Like, I'll listen to any of those guys tell me what I got to do differently, you know, and it, vice versa. You know, we're all open to learning, and I think that's what is making us be successful. It's like no egos at all. With a training room of the same weight class, typically you get guys that are like, you know, cold shoulder and think they're better than that or whatever, and that whole crew is just, I'm looking for them to get better just as like I'm looking to get better, and I know they've got tools that I don't have, and I'm trying to pick their brain just like they're picking my brain, and that's how we get better.
And you guys are all super humble too. That's what I notice about you guys. You know, talking to every single one of you, Patrick, you, Kai, even Mads, like I've interviewed him in the past as well. It's just like Dan Ige, you know what I mean? Like those names are guys that are like well respected throughout the community, right? And yeah, man, I can't wait. You plan on coming out here again before September?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with like who I'm fighting, when I'm fighting. But I mean, I like to try to come out here at least twice a year. Again, this was supposed to be February, and then I ended up getting the Gallagher fight. Had to move everything around because you know he's out here. So I mean, I don't know, man. This is my second home, my home away from home, you know, and I love it out here. And I'm gonna continue to. Any chance I get to boot out to Thailand, I'm gonna take. You know, and as long as the timeline is good, I love the coaches out here. The mindset is like I land and all I want to do is train. You know, you go to your room, you're resting and chilling, maybe beach, massage, whatever, and I'm back to training. So it's a good place to even start camp for me moving forward. Do a couple weeks here, breaks it down a bit so you're not like the same routine for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever. If I can come out here for 3-4 weeks and then go back to Vegas for 6, 7, whatever before the fight, that's probably what I'll be looking to do.
Sounds like a solid combination. You know, you have the wife and the kid. They can come out and enjoy it. Yeah, man. And also, Kai Kamaka, you always talk about coming out here. Dude's out here. He's been out here multiple times. Like you got, but he has a big family though.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he can bring the whole team out here. He'd have to come by himself.
The whole team. What is he on his fifth? He's got five. Oh,
kids.
God,
yeah.
This guy. So.
Yeah. I don't know if he's done or not. Yeah, I think so. I think so. But yeah, we were talking with him coming out at one point. Like he's a really good training partner of mine, but him being in that tournament and that schedule, it doesn't make sense. And then you got like, you know, lockdowns out here, and there's just different.
Yeah, true.
And when you're in a tournament and there's 10 potential opponents, you know, like you can't really go anywhere. Like even in Vegas, you know, you got Bubba.
With the whole,
Jenkins,
the whole Bubba Jenkins thing. Yeah.
It puts him in a spot where he's got his crew, and that's what works, and we're there for him, and he's doing his thing. So I mean, I don't see him cross training necessarily anywhere until after this tournament, and then I'll probably try to get him to come out because I know he'll love it out here too.
Oh yeah, you know, I talked to him about it.
Yeah,
myself. So, you know, hey Jeremy, man, all the best to you, man, moving forward, and it's good seeing you around. You got that like $1 million smile all the time.
There you go.
Because you're happy. You're happy out here, man. Thank you so much.
Right?
Thank you,
my man.